I have a record of 142-19 in the money games that I've played this year live on stream, and I know that because I have a spreadsheet keeping track of every single game. Now, if you don't know what a money game is, it's where a viewer comes and challenges me to a game of Madden, and we both put a little bit of money on the line to make things more interesting. Now, over the course of these games, I've figured out some highly successful winning strategies, so today I'm giving away all my secrets by sharing with you guys the 6 overpowered setups that are most responsible for helping me win these games. Each play checks one of the boxes of the 6 key requirements for any offensive scheme, and all of these setups come from my Chargers Gun Doubles Hip ebook, which some of you have been dominating with for months now if you're a premium member over at playbookprofessor.gg. But to start things off, let's go over the base play of this scheme, which is out of the play PA Go slot cross in the formation Gun Doubles Hip. By base play, I basically mean that this is the play I call the most, and as long as I make the proper reads, it can beat just about any coverage in the game. With this play and every play in this scheme, I always make sure I have the play flipped so that the running back is lined up on the short side of the field. So if I'm on the right hash, my running back will be on the right, and if I'm on the left hash, my running back will be on the left. My pre-snap adjustments are to put the tight end on a drag, put the running back on a swing route, and motion out the wide side outside receiver. After the snap, my first read is always going to be the tight end on the drag. Against man coverage, because drags are man-beating routes, I always make sure that I pass lead the ball outside so he can keep his momentum and quickly turn upfield after the catch. If it ends up being zone coverage and my opponent isn't guarding the flat, then I'll also hit my tight end and take the easy yards underneath. My next read is the running back on the swing route, and once again, if my opponent isn't guarding the flat on that side, then I go ahead and take the easy yards every time and try to make defenders miss after the catch. My third read is the slot receiver on the crosser, and this crosser is a man-beating route as well, so against man coverage, I always freeform the pass up and outside, which puts the ball in a spot where only my receiver can catch it. Against zone coverage, I always pass lead the throw down and outside, and that helps keep the ball away from any defenders in deep blue zones being pulled deep by the solo receiver on the streak. My final read is the wide side outside receiver on the deep in route, and if everything else is covered, it usually means that I'll have a small window to hit the in route over the middle. Even against man coverage, I'll throw to the deep in route, but I always make sure to click onto the receiver and bring him back to the ball to make sure the defender can't make a play. This setup out of PA Go slot cross is the play I run whenever I'm not sure what to call, and it's perfect for feeling out the defense and getting a sense for how my opponent is playing. Next, let's talk about my favorite zone beater, which is going to be out of the play switch wide receiver drag. With my running back lined up on the short side of the field, my adjustments are to put the solo receiver on a flat route, put the running back on a streak, put the tight end on a drag, and motion out the wide side outside receiver and put him on a streak. After the snap, my first read is the tight end on the drag, and usually in zone coverage, it seems like this is who my opponent covers, but if your opponent leaves it open, go ahead and take the easy yards. My next read is the running back on the streak, and with the drag and flat pulling zone defenders apart, the streak gets into a really nice spot in the seam where I can hit him for easy yards. My third read is the wide side inside receiver on the corner route, and I always make sure to pass lead the ball outside to keep it away from the outside cornerback who will be pulled deep by the outside receiver on the streak. My final read is the solo receiver in the flat if needed, but most of the time I never get to that point since one of the other routes is almost always open. This setup out of switch wide receiver drag is my favorite way to attack zone coverage, and because it uses the same pre-snap motion as my base play out of PA Go slot cross, my opponent never has a clue which setup is coming. Now let's talk about one of the most important aspects of any offense, running the ball. For this, I always call the play read option, and this particular version in Gun Doubles Hip is one of the most underrated run plays in the game. Before the snap, I always identify the read key defender who will have an R icon above his head. Now most of the time, the read key will stay home, but if he crashes in after the snap, then I don't press anything to keep the ball with my quarterback and take off into the open space on the outside. If the read key stays home, then I hold A on Xbox, which is X if you're on PlayStation, to hand the ball off to my running back. The way I get the very most out of this run is that I do not hold the sprint button until I get past the line of scrimmage. Doing that helps ensure that I can find an open running lane, and it also helps my O linemen hold their blocks longer. Sometimes I have to bounce the run outside, while other times I cut it back inside, and it really just depends on where the holes open up. In the rare case where there is no read key defender before the snap, I always choose to play it safe and just hand the ball off to my running back. Read option is one of my favorite run plays plays in the game, and when mixed in with the other passing setups out of Gun Double's hip, it's an absolute nightmare for my opponents to try and stop. Now let's talk about my favorite way to attack man coverage. For this, because I use the Chargers offensive playbook, I audible over to the play verticals in the formation gun trips tight end offset. To do this, after coming out in any play in Gun Double's hip, I can make this audible by pressing X on Xbox, which is square if you're on PlayStation, to pull up the audibles menu, then pressing right on the D-pad 3 times to bring me to the gun trips tight end offset audibles, and then selecting the play verticals. While my players are repositioning, I always watch how the defense moves to match the alignment of my new formation. If my opponent has defensive backs lined up directly across from each of my receivers while having almost no defenders on the side of my tight end and running back, then I can confirm that it's almost definitely man coverage. My pre-snap adjustments are to put the inside receiver on a drag, put the tight end on a drag, and put the running back on a wheel route. All 3 of these routes will torch man coverage. After the snap, my first read is the running back wheel route, and especially against a cover 0 blitz, if the user doesn't manually guard the running back, you'd be surprised at how often he gets left completely unguarded and can get you some enormous gains on the outside. After that, I read the inside receiver and the tight end on the drags crossing over the middle. Since drags are man-beating routes, it's impossible for the user to guard both of them, and I just have to hit whichever one gets open. This is a super simple setup, but when it comes to beating man coverage, I always say the simpler, the better. Now let's go over my absolute favorite play for punching the ball in down near the goal line. For this, because I use the Chargers playbook, I audible over to the play RPO alert screen in the formation pistol double stack. To do this, after coming out in any play in Gun Double's hip, I can make this audible by pressing X on Xbox, which is square if you're on PlayStation, to pull up the audibles menu, and then pressing left on the D-pad twice to bring me to the pistol double stack audibles, and then selecting the play RPO alert screen. Now an important note is that for this audible, I always come out in Gun Double's hip with my running back on the right side of the formation. As long as the running back is on the right side, this is an extremely fast audible, and in just 3 or 4 seconds, my guys will get into the new formation and I can snap the ball before my opponent can even process what's going on. If my opponent is in zone coverage or isn't pressing with 2 defenders on the left side, then I will always throw to the screen on the left for basically guaranteed yards on the outside. I like to make this throw with a pass lead up, and that way my receiver will already have some upfield momentum as soon as he catches the ball. While I have thrown to the screen on the right before, the blocking on the right side is much less reliable, which is why I pretty much always throw to the receiver on the left side, since that block always gets made. And of course, just like with any RPO, if I don't feel great about the throw, or if my opponent isn't stacking the box, then I don't press anything, which will hand the ball off to my running back and allow me to take it up the middle. Once I started incorporating RPO alert screen into my scheme, I immediately found myself more consistently finishing my drives with touchdowns. Finally, let's go over my favorite play in this entire scheme, the everything beater. The reason I call this setup the everything beater is that no matter what coverage my opponent is in, this setup can get somebody open, and it's pretty much always for a huge gain. I run this out of the play flood drive, and with my running back lined up on the short side of the field, my pre-snap adjustments are to put the tight end on a streak, put the wide side inside receiver on a slant, put the wide side outside receiver on a fade, and motion over the solo receiver to turn his post into a corner route. It's important that the outside receiver is on a fade rather than a streak, since from this spot on the field, only a fade will be able to pull defenders in deep blue zones to open up space for the corner route along the sideline. After the snap, my first read is the running back on the flat route, and if my opponent isn't guarding the flat, then I go ahead and take the easy yards every time. My next read is the wide side receiver on the slant, and usually I just have to wait for him to get into a pocket of open space, and then I can hit him with a ton of room to run after the catch. My final read is the motioned over receiver on the corner route, and this is the route that's an absolute game changer. Against man coverage, this corner route gets amazing separation, and all I have to do is freeform the throw up and outside to put it in a spot where only my receiver can catch it. I can't even count the number of times that I've used this route to obliterate man coverage over the top, and as long as I freeform the pass, the defender has no chance of making a play on the ball. But this isn't just a man beater, because if my opponent is in zone coverage, this corner route is just as powerful. With the fade route pulling deep blue zone defenders with him, I just have to pass lead the corner route down and outside, and I'm once again coming away with some enormous gains. In some cases, if I really want to make sure that I keep the ball away from defenders, I'll even freeform the throw down and outside, which makes sure that my receiver is catching the ball in open space. The craziest thing about this route is it runs deep enough that even if your opponent is playing their cornerbacks in backed off 30-yard cloud flats, you can wait on the route and then freeform your throw up and actually get the ball over the cornerbacks, which is almost impossible to do in this game. This everything beater setup out of Flood Drive is one of the most powerful setups in Madden, and with all 6 of these overpowered setups now in your arsenal, I promise that this offense will help you guys instantly start winning more games. And if you guys want even more overpowered setups, my full Gun Doubles Hip ebook is just one of the 18 different ebooks that you get access to as a premium member at playbookprofessor.gg. All of the ebooks include video breakdowns for every setup, as well as a PDF download with screenshots of every setup so that you can keep all of these schemes forever. Not only that, but premium members get access to all of our film room videos where I break down all kinds of different Madden tips and tricks that I promise will take your Madden game to the next level. And you don't have to take my word for it. Here's what a few of our premium members have said this year. And even if you don't want to spend a dime, we have a free membership tier as well that unlocks full access to 2 different ebooks, and soon we'll be releasing a 3rd free ebook as well. So whether you're a free member or a premium member, I know that playbookprofessor.gg will help you guys win more Madden games, and I can't wait to see you over there.